Hey everybody, Graham Nolan here, your host for the Storytellers. We have another great episode tonight, episode 51. Can you believe we've got 51 under our belt already? Tonight, an old friend of mine and a very, very talented illustrator is going to come on and talk about his career, his motivations, and his bourbon collection. Let me bring in my pal, Mr. Mark Nelson. Hiya, Mark.
Yeah, in between being an illustrator, comic book artist / teacher, you have to develop that taste for alcoholism.
I forgot to mention also educator.
No.
Yeah, it's quite the resume.
That yeah, ex-professor,
Mm-hmm.
that means I can be
always a professor.
Anyway, thank you for that nice introduction.
Well, it's great to have you here. You know what I always like to ask the guests. The first question is, what got you? Well, you come from a family of artists, right? Your dad was an illustrator.
Yes,
so obviously, you sort of like fell into the family business, I guess. But what got you into comics? Because you do illustration and you do comic work. So what was it that got you into comics, and then by the same token, illustration?
The thing, excuse me, I got an itchy. Why do I have every time I talk to you, I get an itchy nose?
You're allergic to me.
Yeah. What have you got? I got the Graham Nolan.
Oh, you're on the Storytellers, huh?
Yeah. I grew up in North Dakota, and the nearest art gallery was 75 miles away, and the nearest art museum was 350 miles away. So one of the things that I grew up looking and reading was comics, and my dad, was a big Flash Gordon, Prince Valiant, and actually more so Buck Rogers than any of them fan. So we had some of those books around the house, and I, read comics when I was a kid, and I knew I wanted to be an artist. My dad wasn't that happy about that. He said, become a lawyer or a doctor or something you can make money at. And my mom is also...
Did your dad earn a living as an artist?
He was a teacher artist, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just curious why he would try to... Well, I guess I know the answer to why he would try to dissuade you.
Well, no, I mean, the thing is, it's like anything else, when you're in the field, you know the ups and downs.
True.
And, it's not a consistent, even freelance illustration is not consistent. I worked for one company for like 20 years, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, boop, have a nice day. And you're sitting there going, what? So that happens. So you really have to plan a little bit, I guess. So I try to. But, so I went to undergraduate, and then I went to graduate school. I have degrees in printmaking, and that's what I was teaching. And then they started an illustration program where I was at, and they said, well, do you want to teach in the illustration area? And I said, sure. And I said to myself, well, if I'm going to teach illustration, I need to get back into it more seriously. And I started working for TSR. I used to do the Chicago Comic Con, and I got work at First Comics there through Joe Staten, who's a great man. And
Joe's a great guy, yeah.
Yeah, working with my friend Hilary Barta, inking him. So that's some of my first professional work. But I did a lot of little independent comics and things like that I still enjoy the independence the most.
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up in that Kirby Ditko, Don Heck monster era. So
right.
But
so who was your influences?
Oh, good God. Jeez, we could just spend an hour talking about that. I mean, the thing is that with me, I have influences that are in the fine arts world. I enjoy people like Rembrandt, Albert Dürer, Hans Bellmer, who's a German expressionist. There's tons of people there. Comic books. I mean, it's, I remember when those first Steranko Shield books came out, and your eyes went beep. And Neil Adams's, X-Men, you went beep. But then all along, Kirby's FF wasn't anything to laugh at, and neither was Ditko's Spider-Man. And Wally Wood, Thunder Agents, Daredevil. Man, I mean, I love I hit the ECs finally when I'd been in comics for about 10 years because Russ Cochran started putting out those big sets.
Yeah.
And, another magazine that just floored me was the early Warren Creepies and Eerie's, with Al Williamson, beautiful work. Corbin's, first work there. Not first work, but, work that I got to see him more because I collected a lot of undergrounds. I mean, Reed Crandall's still one of my all-time favorite guys. So, I mean, there's all those guys. And then there's painters. Some of my favorite painters are non-objective painters, which, I can get in a philosophical argument on both sides and then leave the room. But I really don't care. I mean, my thing is, if the art speaks to me and it's talking to me and I'm understanding what the artist is doing, I love it. I mean, I love, Alex Toth and Mike Mignola to me are the guys that go, oh man, you're just drawing too much shit. You gotta pare it down. And I can't do that because I'm too anal retentive, but I love their work because they do what I can't do. So there you are, and I've been buying a lot of the graphic albums from over in France, the new King Kong crew. Have you seen that yet?
No.
But oh man, that's a great book. And Eric, and I know I'll slaughter his last name, so I'm not even gonna try, but type in King Kong Crew on Amazon.
King Kong Crew, okay.
Crew, yeah. I bought one of his the big, where they do the big reprint, full size, like what we're doing, like what they did with the IDW things. They did one for his first 3 issues. I think you'll really like it.
Yeah,
it's sort of like you take a little dash of Rocketeer, beep 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 beep, nice dash of King Kong, beep beep, but they hide back, and then you got the whole 40s kind of thing, and New York is all destroyed. Cool. Growing over with vegetation and dinosaurs are running through it.
Is it printed in English?
He is French.
Oh, okay.
Francais. Okay. And there's a lot of great, like Oliver Vatine is another one whose work I get everything I can. I mean, I just wish I could go into the library and pull out all these books. There's so much good stuff out there,
Yeah, and most of it's in your studio. This guy has got more books than a library, folks. I've been to my studio, and it's really something. I just can't believe how many cool stuff that's in there.
And as I say to Anita, when I learn how to read, it's going to be great. Because right now I just look at the pictures.
Right.
This stuff you're seeing, behind me, just for everyone's, is my reference book. So that's things when I need to do, whatever, typewriters, buildings, races, cultures, history, mythology, all that kind of stuff. And Graham has been in the one in the house that is the comic book one, which is just a whole room of nothing but comic and illustrators and painters. And then we have a whole nother section with all the fine artists and Anita's insect and animal reference book. So yeah, it's terrible.
There's something called the internet now, and you can actually look up all this shit, like typewriters and stuff like that, the stuff that you need.
I have stuff that I have tried to find on the internet that I can't.
Yeah,
no,
I'm sure.
But on the other hand, yes, I use the internet too, and I do, But what I'm always terrible about is that I go find my images and then I always print them out hard copy so that I can, see them. I'm not one of those people who likes to hold my phone going off and on while I'm trying to draw.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, I get that.
But I mean, it's a give and take. I mean, yeah, because you got to remember when I started, was way back when they were still printing on stones, and you just didn't have, you went to the library because there wasn't the internet. You had to reference with books, and I just got
Right.
so used to that.
Yeah.
But
Were you ever taught to keep a swipe file?
um,
Like a file cabinet and you cut out magazine stuff
mhm,
and you put it in folders, guns, cars, women's clothing, men's clothing, action
yeah,
poses, that kind of shit.
yeah, we called it the morgue. So we
Yeah,
were more
that's another one.
personal.
Yep. The morgue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because when you say swipe to me, I think of, there you are putting, oh, my favorite Wally Wood character. I can swipe him a few more times,
Oh,
or
no.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, you become like a creature of habit like that, I think, because you know, and this is a personal choice because for me, I mean, you know me pretty well because we've known each other for years.
Mhm.
In fact, goodbye, click.
And nothing's changed.
I I like to create a believability, so I'm always sort of hunting down things that make sense or work or they look like they can work.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of people out there that, like you talk to someone like I just remember Steve Rude saying, well, when you draw the front of a car, it's nothing but a face. Make it look like a face. That's what Kirby did. And that works too.
Yeah.
And it's perfect for those guys. But just wouldn't work for me. I'm
Yeah.
too, so again, it's like one of these things that the joy to me is that there are so many people out there doing so much different stuff, and you can do, I can do my work and still have a great deal of fun. And I thought
Mhm.
that was interesting because I'll go back. I inked you at Eclipse.
Mhm.
I was inking some of your first work. Why did I forget the Skywolf?
Skywolf. Yep.
And I remember getting those pages and I was inking them and just laughing my ass off because they were such great pages. And I'm going, how is this son of a bitch thinking about this shit? This is great. I mean, you do stuff with characters, you'd open their mouths up and do all that. And I'd be going, wow, I'd be like going, well, the serrated muscle doesn't stretch quite that far, and
Pushing the drawing.
yeah. And you were, I mean, so those were great things. Those were always a lot of fun for me to ink.
Mhm.
And then, I mean, your Batman has that sort of nice combination of the two, much more believable, but yet we can twist and bend that sort of line, and that's what
Yeah.
makes it kind of fun as an artist.
Well,
You know,
my influences were primarily cartoonists. Um,
Mhm.
as much as I admired Frazetta and painters and all and illustrators, I always gravitated towards the cartoonists because they did all the deciphering for me. They learned how to distill the language down to its base. And so those are the guys that I really enjoyed, the guys that would push the drawings and make a two-dimensional drawing live in your mind because it wasn't a photograph or wasn't an illustration. It was
yeah.
pushed, and those are the guys that I always liked.
Well, I mean, you and I both like Roy Crane quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And him and his duotone work is just unbelievable. Walt Kelly, another one that just
Yeah.
makes your brain come undone. And the funniest thing I heard about that is that he inked with a Series 7, Winsor Newton brush, but he inked with like a 3, which is
Oh,
pretty much like a giant tree. And so he was pretty incredible in that regard. Or, I mean, like, give me a few more of yours. We got Roy, we got Walt Kelly. Who else? Did you like
oh,
the guy who drew Alley Oop?
oh, yeah.
Hamlin?
Gray. Hamlin. Yeah, Hamlin. Of course, Seagar is one of my all-time favorites. Uh,
You've posted that drawing, and I've posted it too with Bob Pike going, those artists, you got to pet them. That is hysterical.
yeah. Frank Robbins, another guy whose work I
Yeah.
just love. You know, uh, You know what you mentioned Alex Toth and how, what he leaves out is what impresses you, and that you have a hard time doing that because you're, as you said, anal retentive. Um, that is so hard to do, is the guys like Toth and Kubert that know what to leave out, because it's so much easier and uh, I don't know, you look at you. If you're unsure of something, you put something in there. But these guys have brass balls, and they just say, no, this is going to be white space here. I'm not
Yeah.
putting anything in. I mean, I just, I admire the hell out of those guys for that kind of stuff.
Well, the interesting thing, when I was talking to another person about Alex Toth, and they weren't that big a fan. And the interesting thing that he said is the reason he doesn't like Toth is that he feels too captured in the frame. He says it doesn't breathe to him, which I
I
would say,
understand that.
yeah, I do too. But everyone always says, "Oh yeah, I can draw just like Alex Toth," and you're like going,
Yeah.
You look at the beautiful airplane designs. You look at all that creepy and eerie stuff he did
Yeah.
with the gray washes, and you're just like, goodness gracious gobbledygooks,
Yeah,
That's
and he can work in different styles too,
yeah.
which is
And
really cool.
there was quite a few of them that could sort of, I mean, because when you think about Frazetta starting out with doing Little Abner as
Mhm.
sort of the funny, and then he did a whole series of funny animal strips, and then pretty much really just fanned the flames of fantasy art with his ink work and his paintings. So yeah,
Yeah.
Jeff Jones is
Yeah.
another one whose drawings are always amazing to me, because you look at him and it is so much what he does leave out too.
Yeah, Ditko did some really great stuff for Warren magazine, the Warren stuff. After he left Marvel, he just went whole hog, doing those wash things, and
Oh,
he was still at the top of his game before his figures became mannequins. They still had a
yeah.
lot of really cool shadowing on them and stuff like that. But later on, they look like those drawing mannequins you have in studios. Really stiff and.
And I always remember the Ditko one, when you said that, the Ditko one where the woman's walking along and like the beast jumps out of the
Yeah,
tree.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, that was wonderful. That was wonderful.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think
so
it was written by Archie Goodwin too, wasn't it?
there's a guy, there's another genius. Oh, oh,
Yeah,
oh,
Archie is. I'll read any story that Archie wrote. One time, Chuck and I were talking about the Hulk, and there was a period there where Archie was writing the Hulk, and it was during I think the John Severin period where John Severin was inking Herb Trimpe.
wow.
And there was this story of somehow they shrink the Hulk down, like Hydra shrinks the Hulk down to like this size, and Ant-Man is in the story too,
Uh-huh.
obviously. Uh, and Hydra thinks, well, okay, no problem now. We just got this little Hulk, but it doesn't matter his size. Little Hulk just gets angrier and angrier, and he just starts fucking up Hydra as this little Hulk. And it's such a great story
Oh
that
God.
Archie wrote.
I mean, because when we go back and look at those creepies and eerie's, Archie wrote almost every story. This guy was just producing an incredible amount of work, and I don't think there were that many stinkers. They were well put together, the plot and everything, and they really, he
Yeah,
was really good with that. I
yeah.
like that. I must have missed those because
Oh, the Hulk one. Yeah,
I'm spotty with a lot of my comics because I was reading them, and then when I moved around so much, and I really didn't go to my first comic book store until I was in graduate school in the 70s.
oh, okay.
Because most of the time it was me getting on my bike as a kid and riding over to the Valley Dairy or the Piggly Wiggly, and on the spinner racks, and then Creepy and Eerie were on the magazine racks right across from them. So yeah, it's the whole comic book store now to me is just like, what a gold mine.
I didn't realize that they had them back in the late 70s.
This would be about 76. Yeah. Yeah. There was, I was in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and the guy's named Norm. He had a shop which was the Eye of Agamotto.
Ah,
So that was a lot of fun going in there. Because, I mean, I'd never been in the place, where you go in and you have 10 copies of an issue,
right.
Like, wow, I'm sort of used to you get maybe 2 in the spinner rack that have been beep, bent over and everything else. So yeah, to start seeing that was great. Uh-oh,
There it is.
there it is. It's so dinky. Can you blow it up?
Nah. Let me see if I can get a better image, larger image. Here's a bigger one.
That's great. Oh man.
Here, let's do this one instead. There we go.
Okay. Yeah, the big rat and oh god. And that's the other thing too, when I read like the early Ant-Mans by Kirby, and you're just going exactly to me what you're sort of saying. You're going, that ant is anatomically not correct. It shouldn't look like that. That's not an ant, but damn, it looks good in this comic.
Well, Joe Kubert used to say, if it looks right, it is right.
See, now you were very lucky because you got in. You were at the Kubert School, were you not?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's where I'm so weird because I never really got any comic book training or did that. I sort of learned it from doing it and being around people. But even now, I'm down in Texas and it's kind of isolated here for a lot of that stuff. Whereas, I mean, you guys up on the East Coast, well, now Chuck is down in Florida hell. So, and I'm in Texas hell.
You
guys
love the land of the free.
Yeah, you love Florida. You love Florida. I know you.
That's why I grew up there.
As Chuck says, every pool of water has an alligator in it.
That is true.
But, so I'm always, because you, Bissett, Rick Taylor, someone else, I have all these friends that are in comics, and I go, man, that would have been so nice to have been in a whole crew of those people like that, learning and doing things together, and to work with Joe Kubert. I mean, there was a guy who, he was doing those horrendously, his first early work in the old 50s sort of real cheeseball science fiction. But, you just watch his work go right up. And it's, the Tarzan stuff was brilliant. The Enemy Ace stuff, you just went, oh, God.
Yeah, and the Enemy Ace stuff's hard to draw, too. You talk about reference, even when Joe was doing it in the late 60s, getting World War I plane reference, you had to find the right books and stuff. And then, you had to figure out, I don't know if he bought models, put them together so that he had them to rotate. Because I know that Russ Heath did that.
I bought, for one of my comics I was working on, I built a big wheel truck, and then I got a 57 Chevy. I built that so I could, I positioned them. I did things. I hung them with tape, and then I could take my camera and so you could do a and shoot the underside of the carriage. And
right.
Yeah, it's just, it's one of the ways you go around it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many tools available now, like 3-dimensional models that you can use and import in. Like SketchUp has a 3D warehouse where they've all got all these 3D models already built that you can use and drop in and just draw over it and fix it and change it and do all that kind of stuff. But it does speed things up when you're drawing something very complicated. Like when I did Expendables Go to Hell, I had to draw. There was so much reference in it. Everything from, German weaponry, Tiger tanks, a Stuka dive bomber, to American ordnance. All this kind of stuff. And the Tiger tank, I actually found a 3D model of and was able to move it around and drop it in digitally. And then draw it, so the perspective was right and all the little doodads, and there's so much crap on it, but
yeah,
it's very accurate looking, but it doesn't have the power that like a Joe Kubert tank has. Like, even though Joe's were wrong in places, They look, like he said, they looked right and they looked powerful, whereas mine looked right, mine looked accurate, but it didn't have that extra push to it,
I think, and that's always funny because as artists, we know where we wanted it to be, and as the fans get to see it, they get to see it where it is. Do you know what I'm kind of getting at there? Because you go back and no matter what drawing I look at, you go, oh God, I got that fingernail wrong, or I got this wrong, or I should have pushed this more. I should. But that's because we're always inventing and always pushing forward. So you have to see those mistakes to learn so that you can grow and do other things. But it is.
I find that when I look at my own work when it's done, I got to walk away from it because I see every mistake or every deadline. What's the word I'm looking for? Compromise,
Yes.
to make the deadline, that type of thing. And it's not really fair to myself to do that, to feel that way. But I find that, it was more so when I'm younger, but now I'm much more easily able to distance myself. But I used to have to walk away and I couldn't look at it for months,
That's the way I am with your work too. Yeah.
You can't look at it for months.
I can't look at it for months. Yeah. No. It is that. And I always remember, because I would say to some of the illustration students, I said, when you look at work out there that's published, you sometimes go, boy, that's really not a good piece. And then my mind goes, I wonder how long the poor son of a gun had to do it, because sometimes, you turn around and you hear the story about, having to redraw a whole comic book at Marvel over the weekend, with all, 8 different guys getting together. And so you go, it's just not gonna, be the greatest work, So, and we've had those, I've had those jobs, and I know you have too.
Oh, everybody has, when you work in
you're just,
comics.
you're either ready to jump in front of a train or, start selling McDonald's fries. And then you get some sleep and you wake up and you just go, okay, now the next one. And then there's those jobs you get great art directors or great people you're working with, and they're just a lot of fun to do,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now you're working on some stuff, some creator-owned stuff now, right?
I couldn't resist that. Yes, I'm working on Thunder Hunters, and that's a project that I've been working on piecemeal for a long time because it's something that I wanted to do the way I wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a lot of, well, let's put it this way. I have over 250 pages of finished art. So I need to do something with it besides have it, make my flat files lean, to the left. So yeah, I'm going to start putting it together in a series of volumes. The first one is Thunder Hunters. It's going to be the geez, I can't talk now. See, Graham, you make me talk about my stuff, and I get tongue tied. In fact, I have to go and look at it to make sure I did it. So call me back in about a month. No,
well,
you're right.
Why don't you tell the chat what the concept for Thunder Hunters is?
Okay. Are there people in the thing, the chats?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
don't see anything.
It's up on all the way on the right. You'll see something that says comments. It looks like a word balloon.
Yeah. Oh, there they are.
Comments.
They popped up. There they are. Their take. Yeah, I know my initials spelled MAN because it was horrible when my mother-in-law bought me a sweater for Christmas, and she gives it to me, and it's like this big MAN. I was like, I'm not wearing that in public. But anyway, let's see. That's funny. I had to, Anyway, okay. So
So just tell them what Thunder Hunters is about, because this is your audience here. These are people that when you go to crowdfund, that are going to be looking for this stuff. So it's a great opportunity to let them know.
You're right, and it was a really great idea, but the aliens came and killed everybody and ate their brains in the end. No, J.V. Holbrook is an artist who is on a foreign planet. And what has happened is he has gone into an unexplored area called Vermilion Sands. And in Vermilion Sands, he is collecting the myths and the short stories of the indigenous peoples. And he's making drawings of the indigenous people he's meeting and the creatures. So he's sort of a mix of, if you guys know who James Audubon was, who made all these brilliant prints of animals at the turn of the 19th century. And, he did that. And then Catlin came over from England and actually went right out into the wilds and was painting the American Indians in the 1800s and earlier. And he didn't get, made into a sandwich or anything. So he came back with all these beautiful paintings. So I kind of followed that because it gives me the chance to do what I love the most, which is create creatures. And then I was doing a lot of little short stories about how the creatures, are born, in a sense, the myths of how they're born. And then some other things like the reality of, what would be happening out there, where you've got something when you think of, the Silk Road that ran from China to Europe. And it was kind of a dangerous thing because there was a lot of bandits and everything else along that road. So you had some success and a lot of loss, but it's that whole, okay, we're going into the unknown, which is just kind of fun for me, Now,
is the story of the artist who's painting these creatures and stuff, is that more of a framing device, in that the story will be about the myths that he's told?
Yes.
Okay,
in fact,
very cool.
It's gonna as it's laid out, as it's being laid out now, it sort of starts with it's gonna be, and you'll pick this up right away. There's an open letter from the Goodwin Williamson Museum, and they're talking about how this guy shows up, from the trail, covered in dust, smelling like 10 days of bad horse manure, but he has this portfolio of drawings. So they've taken these drawings and they've made this book. So in the first 4 or 5 illustrations or full page pinups, whatever you want to call them, there's like little shots of him in different areas of Vermilion Sand doing different things. And then it will go, it opens up and then you got the first story. And it'll have a page with some of the little sketches that he would have done of the creatures and the people that he met. And then a small little description, and then you got story 1. And then, boop, story 2 opens up with another little description with some of his artwork, and then you do that. So you go through, and then you hit the section where you're going to meet all the sort of shamans and the warriors, the monks, the, guards, some royalty. And then there's a whole section just of the strange animals. And, it's just been, I have to admit, I'm having way too much fun with this. And yes, so does that make sense to you?
Oh, it sounds great. I think the folks are saying here too.
Well, when you, it's like you said, when you're
crowdfunding it through Indiegogo.
Yeah, and when you're working on something so intently, and you're really more or less by yourself a lot of times, you always don't you do that once in a while? You just kind of wonder. You go, what am I doing?
Yeah, you second guess yourself. But there are certain things, there are certain concepts, high concepts that I know are going to be a hit. As soon as I got the idea, I know that I can sell this thing. My current book, Giant Size Two-Fisted Manly Tales, I knew that was going to take off because it was a missing niche in the marketplace, and I knew people would respond well to that. The Chenoo I knew was going to do well because people love a good horror story. Alien
Yeah.
Alamo, I wasn't sure of, because it does take place in 1957. It has a Western motif to it. And those two things I thought might be a bit more off-putting, but it did better than the Chenoo. So the hell do I know?
Yeah. I'm the same. I mean, I love Westerns. I am a Westernaholic. I mean, that's when we grew up as kids, that was one of the biggest things on TV.
Sure.
And, the thing with me, and I think you're somebody that I would call a hybrid, because you can go into that superhero world and then you can also come back into that Western world.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can go into the horror world because, with aliens and drawing monsters and designing monsters. So, if you come up to me and you go, I need a monster with a big pimple, I'm like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. And you say, okay, you want to draw an issue of Superman? And I'm like, that scares the hell out of me. It really does. But you can flip within those two worlds. And my world is a little more, I'm on that fringe. So it's always kind of fun, just to see it. And that's why I had a lot of fun with fucking Alien Alamo, and I like Chenoo. That was great too. But I still would go, I need more Alien Alamo. Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to say this to you, but also to the people in the chat who have gotten their Alien Alamo books, because nobody's commented on it. Has anybody noticed all the Easter eggs on the last page of that book?
Where he's flying in the plane?
Yeah, and he's on his iPad. And if you read the stuff that's on the iPad, it'll bring a smile to your face.
Okay. I'm going to go do that when we get off here.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I can't believe
it's like a NASA page, and then there's like a story about meteors, and I reference Dr. Carrington from my favorite movie, The Thing from Another World. He's the guy telling him about the aliens. Doesn't that make sense? On the left-hand side, there's little news blurbs. One of them is Dr. Richards and his team returned from test flight. That's the Fantastic Four. It's little things like that I put in there in the background to see if anybody would catch it, and nobody has yet.
When I was drawing that Clone Zone strip in the back of Nexus, I put all sorts of things in there, and one of them was the Ymir from Ray Harryhausen.
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite creatures. So I would dot him, in and out of different things. And yeah, I mean, that's the joys of doing this. You can have so much fun with, little things and characters. And, when you start thinking about, and this is me, and maybe I'm too old, but when I think about when I picked up the Fantastic Four and I picked up Spider-Man, you kind of had, there was this attitude of, we're going to the moon. Then they go, what are you going to do to get back? And then they go, we'll figure it out when we get there. There's that sort of naivete, but that glorious, we're going out to discover.
Mm-hmm.
And now everything is so, finite into we have to find this certain gemstone, which gives us the power to work up to 15 gigajoules of blah, 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 blah. And it becomes like this whole, like what D&D, here's my character. He's this strong. He does this. He can stand on his head. He can use 14 swords at the same time, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, there's just I like sometimes that mystery of you don't get everything explained to you.
Exactly.
And you have to have a little bit of belief to see that stuff going on.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
a little bit of fantasy. You don't need to have everything explained. Sometimes you just got to take it at what it is.
You remember when Marvel came out with those cards that were ranking all the superheroes and how strong they were.
Yeah.
And you're like going, I really don't care if the Thing is stronger than the Hulk or the Hulk is stronger than the Thing. You give me an issue of those two fighting, and it's just exciting and fun. That's what's important to me, and that's where I think maybe I've lost it or whatever, but
No, I think that's true in a lot of stuff, is that the fantasy part, the suspension of disbelief is, it's either taken too far or they don't leave enough for you to participate with. And movies and comics should be a participatory piece of entertainment,
Mm-hmm. No, and it really is. And, because I was just reading the comments and somebody said something about, Aaron, and I know Aaron's doing the Wrath of God. And it's just like, I mean, come on. There was El Diablo. I mean, there's just tons. I mean, if you go to the 40s and the 50s, the strip material, there was so much Western stuff and Zane Grey and different people. And,
oh, yeah.
It's like people go now, if you do something, they go, oh, well, you're being influenced by this guy. It's like, no, it's like George Lucas has got all the science fiction sewn up because, if you look at Star Wars, you say, I'm going to do something in a frozen tundra. And they go, oh, we already did that. The planet was called Hoth. Oh, shit. I'm going to do something in the jungle. Oh, we already did that. It was called this, Oh, I think I'll do something underwater. Oh, we already did that. It's called this. And no matter what you do, somebody has always got to relate it back to what someone else does,
Mm-hmm,
I can't tell you the numbers of times I get, oh, your stuff looks like the Skeksis, and it's like, there's things that, I mean, Froud and myself and everybody, our imagination and the people we were looking at and the people we looked at, we're all in the same sort of boat. And, there's only so many, how can I say it, plot lines, monsters, and things like that,
sure.
Well,
Lucas, basically wanted to make a Flash Gordon movie, and he couldn't get the rights from King Features. So,
really, okay,
yeah. So that's what became Star Wars, and it's basically the same plot.
Wow.
A young boy is taken off world to fight an evil empire. That's the same plot as Flash Gordon, but the presentation is different. If I said a boy goes on adventures with his stuffed animal friend, what would you say that was? That I just described?
Yeah.
What would you say that is?
Calvin and Hobbes is what I said.
It's Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, okay.
But so it's Calvin and Hobbes also.
Yeah.
You see? It's they take things, they present it differently, and it becomes something different, but it still has that same framework, Yeah.
And really, half the time to me, it's just like when I criticize a movie or I look at a book or something like that, I don't want to say, if I would have done it, this is what I would have done. What I say is, what is the author or what is the creative team doing, and what's the ride they're taking me on, and is it successful?
Mm-hmm.
If it's a horror movie, is it, does it have things that are really going to make me jump? Does it create, I remember seeing Alien for the first time, and when that chest burster came out, the whole audience went, boop,
Oh, yeah.
That really took that monster, and it really, pushed it to another level. So, yeah. And, you go back and you look at The Terror Beyond Space is pretty much the same story as Alien.
Exactly. That's one I've covered in my 31 Days of Monster shows. And it's a great B movie. I love it. I love some of the, in the 50s, everything, it's post World War II. And, all the heroes were like ex-war vets, they wore 45s on their hips, flight jackets and all that kind of stuff, and they're going to Venus to bring back this guy. And somebody says, you know what, if you're going to go up there, you should have a bazooka and some hand grenades because they have these on the ship.
And the funny thing is that they hang the hand grenades on the grates, so if the creature comes off, they would go off, and nowadays you'd go, oh my God, you just blow a hole in the spaceship and you're all dead, But there was no space, there was no that kind of information yet,
right?
So you really, you were more concerned about the people being chased, but yeah.
The other thing I love is that you're in this oxygen atmosphere in a self-contained cigar tube, and they're all smoking. After dinner, they're all sitting around, and here's these doctors and astrophysicist women, and the women are serving them coffee and cleaning the table up as the guys are sitting there smoking cigarettes.
Oh God! Another one that I think is really a great old science fiction B movie is Them.
Oh, that's
the giant ants. That really, I mean, and that still gets me. When the Stuart Whitman character passes the kids up, to save them, and he gets it. You're like, oh my God, But yeah, that's another one of those things that because those are some of the worst big ants I've ever seen. But and even as a kid, I thought they were bad, but I didn't care because I bought the story and I bought everything about it.
Gee,
And
I disagree. I thought those ants, for what they were, they were like these giant, props, were pretty damn good. Did you ever see that
they were too hairy.
See, that's your ADD about realism here. If it looks right, it is right.
Okay, I'll touche. I'll give you that point. I'll give you that. But I like when they go shoot their antenna off, and then they'll just walk in circles or whatever,
Yeah,
but
the antennae, shoot the antennae.
Yeah, the antennae. Yeah.
Yes. Well, but my favorite line in that movie is when they're talking about when that professor is talking about and trying to tell everybody about ants and how special they are on the earth, and he says, "Oh, we've discovered ants up in the troposphere or something like that." It's like, well, wait a minute. How do you know there's ants? They're this big, and what? You're in an airplane and you can spot one? How the hell do you know there's an ant up in the ionosphere or whatever it was?
Yeah.
It's one of those sentences they throw out, and it's like, okay, you got to buy this because this guy's telling it to
you. Did you ever see that movie Matinee with John Goodman?
Love that movie.
And they had that black and white series. Man.
Yes.
Oh God. And it's like they're throwing the sugar out. She's going, poor Harold, and the giant ant, he conformed to just crawling up the bill. Oh God. I had tears rolling down my eyes.
Oh, that movie is so great because it's touching. It's got heart. It takes place in Key West at a certain time in the world. And it's authentic. It was all shot in Florida between Orlando and Key West. And Cocoa Village too. They shot it there too. So I watched that movie recently and I love it.
Yeah, and it's that whole thing because even like you said, they used to put little shock buzzers in seats in the theaters, and they would do things. You have to sign this affidavit that you won't sue the company if you die from these horrible images you're going to see. And you're kind of like going, and I hate to say this, but nowadays you go like, wow, if you brought back like Hellraiser back then and showed it, people would just be passing out right and left.
Right.
But yeah, it's just that whole kind of, the Roger Corman, that he's never made a movie that he's lost money on,
Right.
He really knew how to play or does play, the cards and certain things. And like you say, and then he goes out and he gets it done, he really did. And that was, come on, who's the showman that's based on?
That's what I'm trying to remember his name.
Oh, I can see his face because he always was smoking a big cigar.
Yep.
And he was always doing that.
William Castle.
Yes.
William Castle.
Oh God. And it's kind of weird because I don't know how to think about it. I'm thinking when I grew up as a kid, you'll probably remember this one too. Did you ever see Attack of the Giant Leeches?
That one was so far down. I think I passed on that one.
Well, that's one. It's sort of like Attack of the Killer Shrews, where they drape carpet over dogs. And the Attack of the Giant Leeches was guys, and it just looked like guys in garbage bags with googly eyes. It was bad. And so that's like when people are like watching a new Star Wars thing, and they're going, "Oh, I can see the green line screen. Oh, I can see there's a pixel out of focus over here. I can do." I'm like going, "Wow, you haven't really watched bad, and I mean bad science fiction movies, you know, where you can see the zippers and the suits, and you can see, oh man." Or my favorite bad one that I will never watch again. Did you ever see Monolith Monsters?
Oh, I like that one. You don't like that one?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to find it and watch it again.
I thought it was very different. You know, the whole idea of crystalline things that get so big that they fall over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was, and then when the guys touch somebody, they kind of like turn into stone.
And then maybe I need to go back and I don't even know where I'd find it, but I might have to revisit that one then.
Yeah.
But the other one where it's like the end of the world and they have the giant grasshoppers and they put the grasshopper on the picture of the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
Walking up the photograph. Oh God.
End of Days? Is that what it's called? End of the World or End of Days?
I can't remember now. Ooh.
Yeah. And I think Peter Graves is in that too, isn't he?
I think he is.
Yeah.
It's another one of those, well, Marcia, I think we survived, but we don't know what's coming next. Ta-da! You know, with the atomic, that's the whole, you know, like even because you think of the Hulk, you know, it's the whole atomic, you know, age where we didn't really know what was going to happen with all that stuff.
Well, you know, I mean, Kirby obviously was a huge movie fan. Did you ever see The Amazing Colossal Man?
Yeah.
And do you remember that the origin of that guy? Well, that was the sequel. That was War of the Colossal Beast.
Okay.
The first one was that he was a soldier and he got out onto like atomic test field and an atom bomb went off, just like Bruce Banner. And, you know, it showed, you know, the light and then his clothes getting blown off and everything, you know, and that's what causes him to grow. Well, what happens to the Hulk? You know, he's a little guy and he grows and he becomes a bigger guy, you know, I mean, and that sequence, I swear to you that Kirby saw that movie and thought of that when he was drawing the Hulk.
Well, I mean, if you really look at it, Daredevil, radioactive material in the eyes, even though he's blind. Spider-Man, radioactive spider bites him, you know. The Hulk, yes. The Fantastic Four, gamma rays, whatever they want to call them.
Cosmic rays,
excuse me. And yeah, it's that same kind of thing. So that this whole, the invisible rays of, you know, energy that are going to change and mutate you.
Right. Yeah.
And now we've got, you know, the people that are actually doing, you know, with genes and stuff like that, which is pretty.
Genes,
yeah.
Yeah.
We've come a long way from, you know, drink this radio. Well, you know, when you start thinking about it too, they're saying that God, the cures for stuff that we used to have, take mercury, take this, take that, because they didn't know that it would kill you. You know, mercury would give you a blush, or arsenic, the same thing. That it used to be in a Renaissance, they would take a little pinch of arsenic so that their cheeks would get red, and you know, they develop a tolerance to it so that other people, you know, if they gave them the same amount, would kill them. So it is an interesting, you know, the chemicals, what we look at and how we look at them, you know, historically are always really pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Science is pretty cool
stuff. Yeah. Because really, in the end of the first one you're talking about with he falls into the dam. They shoot him and he falls into the dam. In the next one, he comes out and he's got that, you know,
and the skeleton face.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the very last sequence is in color where he grabs the high tension wires and all of a sudden they decided to use color stock when he's getting electrocuted.
Oh, I don't remember that. Well, I'll be honest, because I didn't have a black and white, color TV until I was almost a senior in college. You know, we always had black and white. I mean, I saw The Wizard of Oz in black and white, and my dad was telling me, no, this is all this, and the horse is green, and I'm like going, sure. And then I finally saw it in color, and you're like, "Holy moly, Batman!" Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't have a color TV till 1974, so I didn't know that Star Trek was in color.
or The Prisoner with Patrick McGowan. In fact, I saw it in color, and I just couldn't take it. I was so used to seeing it in black and white because they really pushed the gaudiness of the color a lot more
Oh,
than
okay.
I expected. You know.
So, when do you think you're going to launch your project?
we have just Mark Twain that question away. What I mean by that is, most people when they write a story will go, Farmer Bill got up and walked to the mailbox, got his mail, and came back. If Mark Twain wrote it, he'd go down 2 steps, go over and sniff some flowers, walk out, talk to the goat, feed the chickens, do all this kind of stuff, go to the barn, do this, do that, and then get the mail and maybe get back in a week or two. So yes, thank you for letting me Mark Twain away.
Well, and Hemingway would just say, "I read the mail." It didn't matter that you went to go get it. He just read the
mail. Oh, goddamn. That's funny. But end of February, things are going to be all pulled together. So I'm shooting for March to launch the little puppy.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. So I am going to ask you for your phone number. I need to pick your brain a little bit.
Absolutely.
Ask you things like, what does a postage stamp look like? Things like that.
Yeah. I can help you kind of navigate setting up your campaign and stuff too.
Yeah, that would be great. And I know that Aaron has been super nice about stuff, and we talked a lot about stuff too. And his printer is Jocelyn. I'm going to be really curious to see what they look like, because they printed my Lovecraft book, and I really like their printing.
Mm-hmm.
And they print normally yearbooks, so God, the paper is like, I mean, you could just like kill people with hitting them in the head with these books. They're just like, wow, they're dense.
Yeah, when I was telling you backstage about how we'd have to go to a different printer if we use the hardcover book for Giant Size Two-Fisted Manly Tales, and the broker uses Jostyn for the hardcovers, so
they
that's where it would go.
And if you do it, I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it costs a little bit more. But if you get the Smithsonian, that means it's going to be just a beautiful book. Because, when they do signatures and they trim them off and they do the glue binding, and I just remember this because I just bought a couple old science fiction paperbacks, and I went, eat, and it went crack, and the whole book just fell out of the paper cover. And that's the glue binding. It's only good for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And the Smithsonian means that they're going to sew the signatures together. And that means when you lay the book down, you can lay it down and it won't go, it stays open and everything. So that's a lot of, in fact, actually, I think the World Fantasy, they did that too. They did, they Smith sewed that. It goes back to my book binding classes I took.
Excellent.
So, and if you ever need a little stapled comic, or as they would say, saddle stitch, I've got a little stapler that I just go boonk to boonk to boonk by hand, one at a time. I made a whole set of little printed books that were just 16 pages and saddle stitched like that. And that was fun.
Cool. All right,
so
we've been running about an hour. I have another show I got to do at 8:30, so
okay.
I think we'll wrap it up here. Is there anything you want to let the folks know about, Mark? I put your website. Mark's website is in the description here, so you can go check out his work there.
GrazingDinosaurPress.com. And if you go to Amazon, they carry the Lovecraft book, which is one of my favorite things I've done, and then the World Fantasy book too, which is the newest thing. And I don't know what else to say, because I'm sort of unlike you and a lot of people who get on a great book and stay in the series. I'm just sort of like one of these guys that hopscotches around. In fact, I was talking to a friend about it. He didn't know about it, but I actually did some spot illustrations and the cover for this Ray Bradbury hardcover.
Oh yeah,
and,
beautiful.
yeah, and then the fantasy world, my favorite, so far.
Let me hold that up there. Hold on a sec. Hold that back up. There we go. I want to put you on solo layout so we can. Oh yeah, I've got that book. That's a great book. Yeah.
So you actually read through it?
Oh, like you, I looked at the pictures.
A man after my own heart.
And if you would show the other book too, now that you're in solo mode here, so people could see it.
Well, let me go grab the fantasy world building they can get at Amazon. Let me grab a quick copy of the Lovecraft book. I'll be right back.
All right. So, guys, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so and hit that like button so that the algorithms will help the channel. Would be much appreciated.
Okay.
All right, back it up and then move it there. No, move it towards you, towards your face. There you go. Now cover your face with it. There we go. Okay, that's it. There we go.
Yeah, that's got. Well, here, I'll do this too. It's a guy who went to Innsmouth and made drawings of the people. Who would have guessed that I came up with another artist? This is done with Stephen Smith and myself, and you can get this through Amazon also. It's called Innsmouth, The Lost Drawings of Manish Sokovia.
Very cool.
So those are a couple of new things. And then I've done some little stories in Mouse Guard and a few other places that are just all over the place. So
well, I think if you go to Amazon and just type in Mark's name, it should come up with a list of his books that are available up there.
Yeah.
Admiral Wackass says, great combo, guys. Can't wait for Mark's campaign. That book sounds very interesting.
Ah, thank you. See is there anything else? Okay, Two-Fisted Man Tales. Yeah, great show. What's TY mean?
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you, Bob. Okay.
What's your favorite stimulant for drawing, Mark?
The sound of the pencil sharpener.
Okay, there it is.
No, I mean, it's weird. I don't really, and Graham knows this, is that I'll drink socially, which means if he and I get together, I'll have a bourbon. We'll talk about all that kind of stuff and do that. I'm not really somebody that, just sits and drinks by himself until he passes out. I don't smoke anymore. I don't drink. So, my stimulus is just ideas and things that, I see from looking around or books I'm reading and people I'm talking to give me so many ideas that I just have to get in the studio and draw. And I don't know if Graham will admit to this, but I think once you've been doing this for so long, you are like I think a religious zealot, if you don't draw, if I don't draw every day, I get kind of cranky and not fun to be around,
Interesting.
Your mind is always, even when you're watching a movie, like what we were just talking about with Kirby, you're going, it's affecting you because you got two people watching the movie. The one person's going, wow, this is kind of fun, entertaining. I'm really enjoying this. The other person is like going, oh boy, they missed it with the storytelling cue there. They should have brought this in, or oh, that's a good idea, or that's happened here. And it's become such a way of life that you can't separate it. And I just find that the world is such a fascinating and a wonderful place to be in. And since an old friend said it to me, no one gets out alive. You might as well enjoy the living daylights out of it while you're here.
Amen, brother. Amen to that.
Okay, well, I'll let you get to your next gig, my happy friend. And send me.
I want to thank Mark for coming on and telling us about his career and telling us about what's coming up. I think everybody's going to really, I've seen some of the artwork for this thing, and believe me, folks, the color and the drawing is just freaking amazing. So we'll have you back on when you launch, Mark, so that we can get people, on board and let them know and share the links and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, and if they go to Facebook, there's Mark A. Nelson, and there's also Grazing Dinosaur Press, so they can see a lot of drawings and the things that I'm doing. I do post those a lot.
Dr. Mask, to answer your question, I'm supposed to go on John Malin's show at 8:30. So the coach and I will be talking about manly tales. So, hey, everybody in the chat, thanks for stopping in. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you over at Malin's channel at 8:30. And if you can't make it over there, stop into the Professionals on Thursday, because that's always fun. I think Dan Fraga is going to be doing it. The newly healed Dan Fraga. So thanks again, guys. Have a great night. Bye-bye now.